Alrighty, so as I mentioned in my last video about this build, I really wanted to make a lag build. As you know, influence raises with how many people are in the general vicinity. Performance is pretty much a slideshow, and I wanted to make a build that I could just have a good time in those conditions in. And man, this build is fun, let me tell you. Rather than jumping into the attributes first, we're going to take a look at the gear first. The two artifacts that I've chosen for this build is going to be the Grey Wizard's Hat and obviously the Life Taker. Now, I was running the refreshing chest piece, Nimble, the Nimble coat. You honestly have the option between the two. The thing I like about the Grey Wizard's Hat is the mana that you get from that is actually pretty noticeable, as you are pretty much just casting spells off cooldown. So the extra mana is definitely noticeable, as you will pretty much never run into situations where you don't have enough mana to cast a spell. On top of that, it has more stat than a regular artifact does. So regular artifacts have 32 of a stat, whereas the Grey Wizard's Hat gives you 45 intelligence, which is going to allow us to just pump up our damage just a little bit more while retaining the rest of our stats. And then as for the Life Taker, as you can see, I'm upgrading so many builds at the moment that I don't even have a space for this artifact quest at the moment, but all the perks that you're going to get from this are really going to be utility and sustain perks. The main thing that we want from it is that negative energy perk, which is going to apply Disintegrate on our Fire Staff whenever we hit a light or heavy attack. But in terms of the rest of our gear, it really is just weapon perks. And then in order of importance, it's going to be weapon perks, refreshing, and then defensive perks. So as you can see, we're running Meteor Shower and refreshing on our boots here. I managed to pick up a pretty nice pair of legs here, which has diminishing orb, which is going to reduce the duration of those fortifies in those clumps. And then we also have shrinking energy and refreshing. Fortifying burnout, I find, is actually pretty noticeable and nice, especially in influence races whenever you burn out into those clumps. Ideally, what I would want to do is get that fortifying burnout on a piece like these Sporelight gloves here. I'd probably replace the health perk and put fortifying burnout once I have enough to upgrade these. And then taking a look at our chest piece here, very similar theme here: Enchanted Ward, refreshing, and thirst conditioning. And then obviously the Grey Wizard's Hat, as I mentioned. We'll talk about the perks that I would upgrade both of these with in a second here. Taking a look at the jewelry, we actually aren't running the Ankh. You really don't want to run Ankh on the Void Gauntlet because a lot of your heals are considered outgoing heals, mainly the Orb. And the Orb is actually a very noticeable heal that we have on the build. So we've actually gone for a Alchemist's Reprieve, Divine, and Health Amulet. This is a really, really nice amulet for the build. It's going to buff our health potions and buff all of those Void Gauntlet heals. Champion's Ring is probably going to be best in slot here, unless you can find a... well, actually, you can't get Keen and Fire damage. Keen on Fire Staff is, or crit in general, is very, very important and very beneficial, as well as that Invigorated Punishment. So I would definitely run a Champion's Ring for your ring slot. And then Heavy Earring, as I've been running on most of my builds, a really, really good set of perks if you can get it on really any earring: Healthy Toast, Refreshing Toast, and Nimble. As for the Fire Staff, as I mentioned, Keen. The meta for Fire Staff is really just going to be Keen, Vicious, and whatever weapon perk you're running. So whether that's Fireball, or Pillar in this case, you really want Pillar on your weapon because, as you're going to see, and as you kind of saw in the intro there, you can get your Pillar back very, very quickly with the weapon perk there. And then obviously we have the Life Taker. Now, as for what perks I would put on the Life Taker and the Grey Wizard's Hat, you really only... the choices are not going to be that wide or varied. As far as the gray wizard's hat is concerned, if you've managed to find or collect a couple of pieces that have some of those weapon perks that we've looked over, as well as either physical aversion or some kind of aversion with shirking heals, you could definitely go ahead and put shirking heals on the gray wizard's hat if you wanted to. If not, something like fire harnessing as well. If you've collected a bunch of fire harnessing pieces with some similar gear that I'm wearing, this would also be a pretty good choice as well. And then as far as the life ticker is concerned, like I mentioned, a lot of these perks are going to be utility perks. And as far as the weapon is concerned, you don't really have a ton of choices. Really, what I was considering putting on it is either going to be something like Alacritus Punishment, which is going to buff our damage quite a bit for those clumps because a lot of people are going to have haste on them, or something like Petrifying Scream, because if you can't get that on a gear piece, having just any source of disease is going to be really, really nice. But besides the gear, taking a look at our attributes here, let me just use my food and actually put my gear back on. I kind of changed them up a little bit from what I was running, from what I mentioned in my last video. That gray wizard's hat is going to allow us to get a pretty nice stat setup here. We're running 400 intelligence to buff our fire staff damage and our life taker as much as we can. We have quite a few points dumped into focus as well to buff those heals, and it is very noticeable with just 70 focus and the divines on our amulets here. Both our roll and our orb is going to heal us for 1k, which is a very, very noticeable amount. And then as well as when you get those perks on your Void Gauntlet, life stealing, as well as the heal on crits, you can get quite a bit of sustain on your Void Gauntlet by having even just 70 focus. And then, as I mentioned, you always want to have at least 150 constitution on any light build. And then taking a look at our weapon trees here, taking a look at the fire staff. As you saw by the ability setup, we are running Pillar and Meteor for the maximum AoE damage. So all of our damage passives here. You could honestly, I'm probably going to consider running Flare. I have to see which perk here I can kind of get rid of, but Flare would be actually perfect for this build for influence races, just to be able to guarantee that cooldown on our heavy attack. But 2 points into Pillar here, all the passes as I mentioned, everything into Meteor, and obviously Runes of Helios, Power Mania, Let It Burn, and then obviously all of Burnout. And then taking a look at our Void Gauntlet tree, we don't have any of the ultimates because we are spending most of our time on the Fire Staff tree. So Scream, we're going to get to the Refreshing Fragility, Leeching Agony, Refreshing Precision, and Keen Confidence just to get the crit, cooldown, and heals, as well as Oblivion. Damage on our heavies, the Cleanse, whenever you use Harvest Essence. It's going to reduce the mana cost a little bit just to make sure that we can... Honestly, don't even really need this perk, but just to make sure that we always have mana to cast spells. More healing, obviously, and then that Mending Evasion with Orb. So yeah, the build is pretty straightforward, and honestly, it's just a vibe. It's literally just throw on your favorite music and start dumping AoE into those clumps. But let's take a look at some of that PvP footage. Jumping right into the action, we are going to be picking up right after we have respawned after a death on a tower here, as our group is getting pushed by a ton of greens. And we have actually a pretty funny composition in this actual clip here, running I think 5 mages and a single melee. So this is definitely not the group that you want to try and chase. And you can see already the amount of damage all of us are pumping in. We get a couple of nice pillars there. We throw in a really, really nice meteor. Get a couple of knocks with the rest of our group. And then we all just start kiting beautifully together. starting to separate and pull this group apart. You see the back of the group doesn't commit with the front of the group. Get another nasty meteor, get somebody very, very low. Our melee is able to pick up and follow up on that low health character. And like I said, we're all running some form of mage build with fire staff. So you can see just off screen, we're all just pumping a whole bunch of DPS into this group here. Get a really, really nice wipe on that initial green clump that decided to push us. And we're going to go ahead and follow up back onto the point here. But yeah, just a ton of damage. And especially when you clump PvP, just make it easier for me to just pretty much line up all of the birds. But we push back onto the point here. Following our melee, we're going to go ahead and see if we can pick up any kills. We jump right onto the middle of the tower, and it actually looks like a majority of the green Zerg here has pushed out to kind of try and kind of move their line of defense forward a little bit, which just makes it a lot easier for us to kind of just come onto the point and pick off a lot of stragglers. But really, really nice little maneuver there. You can see just how much damage and coordination you can do with even a small little 5 or 6 man. We get one of these archers who's really not paying attention and just pretty much burst him with all the spells. Get somebody else very, very low as well. We're going to be able to finish him off, or hopefully, I think. We do manage to get the burnout as our teammate picks up the kill with the fireball there. But yeah, just a really, really nice amount of damage as we do get caught by quite a few melee. But jumping into just a few moments later, we're going to go ahead and respawn and jump back onto the point here. Looks like most of our group has regrouped, and so has the green actually. As they noticed that we were taking out quite a few of their backline on the point here, they kind of moved their line back onto the point. So we're going to go ahead and use this pillar as line of sight, start just pumping into this backline with the meteors and the pillars. You can see already we're forcing people to kind of move away and stop their kind of constant just line of fire. We retreat into our teammates. Our melee gets a really, really nice finish there with a couple of our ranged. And we're going to go ahead and just set up on this position and continue to pump DPS until we find an opening here. And we see our melee jump into the fray there. We're going to go ahead and follow up. I'm really just trying to use as much line of sight as I can, being that there's quite a few bows and ranged DPS. But again, we find an opening to kind of jump into the back of this point. We're going to go ahead, follow the melee, get a pretty nice scream onto this archer on top there, get a juicy pillar, finish him off, and then look for some more targets to finish off. It's a little bit tricky to line up your spells when you're on these little crosswalk parts, but doing a really, really good job of pretty much finding out all of these targets and finish them off as we get a really, really nice pillar to finish off that one target there, and we try to find that meteor to finish off that secondary target. But literally just free casting. That's like one of my favorite things about this build is you as long as you play or keep your positioning rather well or pretty good, and you're not just diving into a bunch of clumps or DPS, you can pretty much just sit back and free cast into all the clumps, and I can't tell you how much fun it is. We get pushed a little bit by the greens here. We're gonna go ahead again, throw a nasty meteor into this choke point. We're using this choke point really, really well. It doesn't look like too many of them commit though, and then we are gonna go ahead and again get pushed by the majority of the green Zerg. But a pretty nice clip there to kind of show off what the build kind of looks like even in a smaller group. And then jumping on to the next clip here, we have a little bit later the fight in waivers, and this fight here really shows just how insane the build is, and actually why I like Firestorm so much more over Cannon Blast. When you get a lot of players clumped up in a single area, you can literally get 2 to 3 Firestorms, excuse me, per fight. And you see we're going to go ahead and set up behind the Zerg here. We're going to throw our orb into there, get a bunch of dots going, throw down our meteor, start pumping into the DPS into this group here. You can see with all of our group here trying to focus down that middle area of the point, excuse me. It pretty much forces everybody to disperse, but already we have got some heat on us, as it seems like the green Zerg has made a call that we are attacking from the backline. But we're just going to go ahead and retreat a little bit, regen our health, reset, and then go ahead and push right back into this point here. Throw down the Oblivion, try to get that Empower. See if I can catch that guy there with the Scream. But really, positioning is key when you're playing this build. I really want to make sure that there's really no melee or really impending threats on me. And you can see we're getting chased down by a rapier there. We're just gonna go ahead and kite and allow our teammates there to finish off that kill. Do end up getting caught by the Bunaba CC there, but a lot of players starting to group back up onto this point. So I'm trying to see if we can find a favorable position to start to pump in all of this DPS, start to get a lot of damage into this one target there, find a really nice spot, throw down the Oblivion, and then we're going to go ahead and just start pumping in the DPS. Already find one target. The cooldowns from the heavy attacks with the fire staff can help immensely with just getting your cooldowns back up. Throw in the firestorm, time it perfectly with the meteor, just get a ton of DPS, get 2 downs there, start pumping in the DPS. We throw the orb in as well, just insane amounts of dots in DPS on every single target in there. I was gonna burn out in the middle of that, but I decided not to at the last second there. But you can see how fast we already have our firestorm up again. We do take a little bit of DPS or a little bit of damage, so it's going to go ahead and check a potion, throw another firestorm, start throwing some pillars into the middle there, and you can see we are just wiping these greens with the rest of these yellows. It is just so much fun. Start to take a little bit of fire from the side there, so I'm just going to go ahead and retreat if I can. But yeah, just a literal turret this build is, and it's perfect for the influence races because what do people like doing? They like clumping up to get those heals from their healers, and like I said, it just makes our day or makes our job easier. And you can see just by how many bags are in the middle here, just how many players we ended up wiping with our friendly yellows there. But it looks like purple has now made a push onto the point with us wiping the greens, and they are starting to form up in a pretty similar spot that they were in previously. But we also have quite a few yellows on the point as well, so we're going to be able to hopefully cap this point. It looks like we do have more players on the point, or and that actually is greens again, excuse me, who have just reinforced from the point. But again, throw in the meteor, the refreshing pillar on that fire staff. If you can just land it on a couple of people, you just have infinite pillars on the group, which is just so much fun. Infinite pillars, infinite meteors, and just pumping in the DPS. We go ahead and we wipe both the greens and the purples again off of that point. End up recapping the points here. We're just gonna literally chill here, and because there's so much chaos, it's really hard for people to focus you down, which makes this makes it a field day for a full range build like this, a full AoE build. And then this here is probably one of my favorite fights that I've had in the influence races as of late. You can see there's quite a few purples on the point in Evansville Reach here, and I'm trying to call out to my group that they're set up on the point and there's nobody else really here. And we are going to have a pretty sizable yellows are also pushing the point with us, but just I want you to really pay attention to how much influence the 5 of us in this small man group are going to be able to have. You can see there is a lot of purples on the point, and I'm calling out to my group that we really need to flank right now because with them not really noticing how much of us there are or how many yellows are kind of forming up in this area, this is the perfect time for us to get the flank on this purple group. As you can see, they all had their attention focused on the area that we were just in. So you can see my group members are now meeting up with me at the back of this point. We're going to throw down the Oblivion, throw down the meteor into the firestorm, into the pillar, and we're just going to literally force this group off this point. I think a lot of the main yellow triggers are going to get a lot of these killing blows and downs, but you're going to see here, this group cannot stay here and just face tank our damage and then deal with the other side of the Zerg. You can see we're all literally dumping all of our spells off of cooldown, meteors off of cooldown, pillars, we're throwing in the orbs whenever that's off cooldown as well. We're using our Oblivion to buff our allies as well, and you can see it's literally forcing these purples to now get squished by both of our sides. And it's pretty much as if this small 5-man behind the group with how much AoE damage we have is equivalent in damage to the yellow Zerg that's on the other side, because you can see now the other yellow Zerg starts to push into the point. It looks like the purples have made calls in like their Discord that we are pretty much pumping way too much DPS into the back of their group for them to ignore, and a lot of yellows have now made their way onto the point. We're gonna go ahead and disengage just for a second here. as a lot of these purples are going to go ahead and kind of turn their attention back to us. But you can see literally overrun the purples on this point here and just take that point for ourselves. And it's really a testament to not only just this build, because it's not just me doing it, but how effective you can be with even a small group of just 5 people. We literally were able to put in enough DPS to pin through this purple group and literally just take that point in I think a minute or two, which was a really cool experience. But yeah, as much as I talk about how bad the performance is in these influence races, the one thing that they did an amazing job of doing is forcing PvP into the entire zones and creating really cool fights like this that would pretty much normally never happen on a normal day. So I'm going to leave you with this last incredible fight. As always, if you have any questions at all, please let me know in the comments. Have an amazing day.